Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this RE013, where I take old stories that I've narrated and update them to modern standards. This particular story is called My Earthling, My Best and Only Friend, written by RegalLegalEagle. I sat out the room waiting for the doctor and contemplated my life since I met my best and only friend. As an Archon, I figured I'd always live alone. Not only is it a profession that requires constant travel to fight injustice and help those in need, but Kernick, in general, are very solitary creatures. We'll go dozens of cycles before seeking out a fellow Kernick for socializing. We're the oldest intelligent species and have been protecting the galaxy for a very long time, so we're sort of used to it. So when I came across that terribly damaged and nearly prehistoric freighter, I had no idea that day would change my life forever. I found him, the only survivor of a Kraken attack. They're basically our mirror. They travel in massive packs and do as much damage and cause as much pain as possible. Well, he looked strange as hells to me, but the computer said that he was from some planet called Earth that had only just barely figured out FTL travel. They didn't even have an effective translator yet, so communication was very difficult. I knew I should try to take him home, but the Kraken horde was heading back to their territory, and I knew this was my only chance to catch them for at least 5 cycles. So I tried to explain to him what was going on. It was easy, but I got the idea that he wanted to go with me, so off we went. At the beginning, it wasn't too easy. Kernick have much more sophisticated digestive tracts, and biology in general. It was a messy few days until we sorted out the bathroom, but we got that worked out soon enough. Now I understood that he wanted to go with me, but I thought just as a civilian. I figured that I'd leave him in the ship while I did my job. But by chance, I took him with me to visit a market world and the sights in the cloud. Well, wouldn't you know it, we were less than a quarter rotation when some punk steals from a vendor. I was thinking that I would just let the locals deal with it. But the Earthling, he went after that punk like lightning. I was impressed as hell. After that, I started to bring him along more often, and that's when we really started to get close. He wasn't sophisticated, and he certainly didn't take flack from some of the prisoners. I had to pull him off a few criminals that really pissed him off. Good thing the code allows for a bit of leeway with culturing new recruits from primitive worlds. Well, soon enough, we tracked down the Kraken horde, and not only did we get them together, he saved my life. The Kraken are rarely interested in more than chaos and trouble, so they got the drop on me when their boss actually laid a trap. It seemed like he wanted one of us, Kernick, for some nefarious purpose, and an Archon was all the better. Well, they totally missed out on my friend, the Earthling. They totally dismissed someone from a primitive world and didn't tie him up or anything when they tossed us in a cell. He had me out of the bindings in no time, and then slipped out, and then managed to steal the passkey and get me out of there. The looks on the faces when I burst out, fully armed, and with my best friend at my side. We both got commendations after that, and he was made an honorary Archon. Communication was still problematic, but we'd figured out how to convey basic things, and they let me keep him as a partner, especially since it was hopeless trying to teach him how to fly the ship. I'd heard other Earthlings were good pilots, so maybe he just didn't get it. Either way, we got him some custom gear, and together we became unstoppable. He was always alert in ways that surprised me. Not only was it impossible to sneak up on this crafty bastard, but he was the best tracker I've ever met. No criminal could shake him on the planet. Even when we were at that diplomatic dinner in Turvix 9, he could tell the princess was having some sort of health issue way before the rest of us. We were all focused on the dinner and conversation, but since he couldn't understand us, I guess he noticed how funny she was acting. Saved her life. They made him a knight after that. I'm not even a knight, and this Earthling got that honor. No one from Earth ever tried to track him down, and I got a sense that after that attack on the ship, all he had was me, and all I had was him. We were close, very close. I'd bitch at him about the code or regulations or politics, and he'd listen and just make me laugh with his antics. I'm sure he understood very little of what I told him, but it was so nice to have someone to talk to. And he'd get emotional at times. He didn't like some planets, and a few creatures obviously made him nervous, so he'd stay close to me. I also got the sense sometimes that he was lonely, but then we'd exercise and work out to stay sharp, and he seemed to be back in the game, dedicated to the job. I understood that feeling all too well and respected it. 15 cycles we were at it together. He did more to advance my career in 15 cycles than I did on my own in 20. I was offered several chances to move up, but I always turned them down. Then, about a month ago, he started acting weird. I could tell that he didn't want me to worry, trying to be the same best bud a Koenig could ever have. But something was up. I finally took him to the hospital, even though he begged me not to. He always hates hospitals for some reason. Probably all the machines and needles freak him out. I figured there was something simple, an injury from one of our cases that didn't work right. The file said humans live about 100 cycles, so I thought we had tons of time left. But the doc came out and pulled me aside. I couldn't believe it. Cancer. I thought we rooted that out centuries ago, well before I was born. Well, the problem was, we fixed the genes. Earthlings were brand new to the greater galaxy, so we didn't have time to fully map their genes out and figure out how to fix them. The drugs they used were mostly effective for their own treatment, but we were on the other side of known space. It would take months to get him out there. I couldn't even tell him what was happening, since the few translator devices that had been made were only given to diplomats, and also on the other side of known space with the drugs. I started to break down as the doc told me that my best friend was in the later stages as well. Either he'd been having trouble far longer than I noticed and didn't tell me, or hadn't himself felt it until just recently, and it was too late to operate. That the cells had spread. What kind of way was that for him to go? I'd seen him attack creatures twice my size, let alone his. He had an arrest record and commendation list longer than my arm. And he was going to lose to cancer. We had a final week where I did everything I could. He was better than me about the whole situation. But with the drugs they were giving him, he'd probably thought that he was getting better, not worse. I made sure to find some of his favorite food, took him to do some of the things he loved. I did everything I could for my best and only friend. But at the end of the week, I could tell, even with the drugs they were giving him, that he was feeling worse again. He couldn't go on. So I took him back. The doctor got him all set up, and that's what I was waiting for. They'd set up a machine, and since they couldn't explain it to him, I'd have to be the one to press the button. They taught me that he'd just drift off to sleep in peace. It was better this way. I really didn't think anything about the situation could be described as better, but they were the doctors. Finally, he came out and nodded to me. I collected myself, trying to remain strong for my friend. Walking into the room, I saw him look up, already happy to see me. I already had tears in my eyes as I sat next to him. "Hey, bud." Woof! The stupid bastard was wagging his tail and licking my face like always. Hells! I couldn't do this, could I? But he was in pain. My guts twisted and churned. I know we can't communicate well, but I know you're in pain, bud. I choked back the words as I heard his tail thump against the blankets. How was he so strong? He tried to crawl closer, and I just stopped trying to talk. I clutched him in my arms, hearing the continuous thump of his tail. Finally, as we hugged, I pressed the button. He was licking my face right up until he fell asleep. My best and only friend. I was a mess for rotations after that. I barely had the ability to submit the paperwork for his ceremonial burial back on the Archon HQ planet. I didn't know how I'd go on without him. Part of training to be an Archon involved learning how to deal with loss. But that had been cycles ago. And why would I pay attention if I was always going to be alone? The next few days were horrible for me. The funeral was worse. I didn't hold it together. I'm sure that I was a disgrace as an Archon to have such motion, exposed and open, but the others supported me through it. 2 rotations later, however, I was told the Earthlings had sent their ambassador. Apparently, I had some sort of misconception about Earthlings. The last thing I needed was some sort of political snafu. When I met the ambassador, however, they were accompanied by some creature I'd never seen, and the ambassador was so young. As young as my best friend when I met him, so full of energy and excited. That's when the other creature spoke up. "That's not the ambassador. I'm the ambassador. That's a puppy, and your new partner." End of story. I would just quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Dragon Soup, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Red Panda 121, Leslie 517, Bushmaster 177, Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Sans the Skeleton, Lightjock, Dragzoon WRE, and Lord Azrakal. Thank you very much.